Welcome, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce Jan Kessler. So Jan comes from a scientific computing background in physics and quantum chemistry, where he's responsible for management and development of BigBlueButton deployment at the University of Mainz. BigBlueButton serves as an online teaching and video conferencing platform for all schools and universities of the federal state of Rhineland-Palatinate, Germany?
Rhineland-Palatinate, I think.
Thank you, Steve. Looking forward to it. I've had the pleasure to meet Steve in person. He's an awesome guy. Steve, I turn the microphone over to you.
I think you got my name wrong. I'm Jan Kessler.
Sorry, Jan, I mentioned Steve. I said Steve because of something else, because we just came from Steve's presentation. I'll edit that out.
It's fine, it's fine. Okay, thanks for having me here. And today I'm going to talk to you about my work on supporting specialized server types in ScaleLite and Greenlight, which is stuff that I have mostly done before and during the last developer summit in Brazil, where I attended remotely, unfortunately. So, and today I will show you the results pretty much. Oops, can I change? Yes. So first of all, what was the motivation to do anything at all? Or why would we want to have multiple types of BBB servers? Because as you may know, you can customize BigBlueButton on a per meeting basis via the API with many different parameters, but you can't change everything. So obviously you can't change the BBB version that is running on the server. You cannot change the hardware specs, or you can't change the audio settings in FreeSwitch and the webcam profiles, for example. And also there are a bunch of different other settings which can't be changed by API, mostly related to recordings and things. So you can't do everything with just passing API parameters. So what would be an example of a special server type? Well, I think the most obvious one is a public beta server or early access server. So I think as many others, we do have a public testing environment. So a separate Greenlight with a separate ScaleLite and a separate server pool, where also not irregular users can try out new versions, but even though we advertise it every time a major release comes up, the participation rate is kind of low. And I think the main reason is people don't want to change the platform just to try out the new version. They don't want to recreate all their rooms, send out new invite links and so on. It would be much easier if they could just change the setting in their room config to use the new BigBlueButton version. And I think we could get a lot more public testing in that way. Another example is the webinar setting or a huge meeting setting. So typically we do have a lot of meetings anywhere from 2 to 50 and sometimes like 100 users. So these are little team meetings, school classes or lectures. But we also have occasionally, not on an hourly basis, not even daily, maybe very large meetings, sometimes up to 600 users. Record was 628. And they happen on the same platform as all the other stuff. So there are two problems. Obviously, we would want to give more beefy servers to these huge meetings. And also, we want to have empty servers for these huge meetings. First of all, to get all the resources for the big meeting, but also to not affect all the other meetings on the same server if the meeting takes up all the resources, right? So there's the desire to have separate platforms for both kinds of meetings. But again, it's difficult to tell people go to this other Greenlight, start your meeting there. They just want to have one platform and they don't understand the differences anyway. And a third thing that I probably won't be using, but I sometimes got the request for this is to have like much more higher quality audio settings on the server, like 200 kilobit bitrate for hi-fi music, whatever they are doing, right? or on the other hand, support very high quality webcam profiles to better show details via webcam or via a camera in general. So that could be a third idea. And also just in general, we don't have that desire, but I could think of others having that idea to provide certain users, individual users or user groups, different server pools in the sense of the VIP servers or something like this, right? So what do we have in terms of BBB load balancers to support that idea? We can't, yeah. So a multi-tenant ScaleLite, for example, supports only a single pool of BBB servers in general. What you can do is provide default or override parameters for each tenant. So there you can at least utilize the different API parameters to customize meetings for each tenant. And other load balancers, like for example, B3Scale, do support multiple pools of servers, like M pools and N front ends, and you can map between both. So if that is what you need, then you have the option there, for example, in B3Scale. But what you still can't do is provide an individual user the choice to select the server type, at least not without having them switch front ends, right? Go to a different platform to start the meeting there. There is one exception, and that is the monolithic PLOS. That is the exception because there's front end and load balancer combined. So PLOS can actually do this pretty easily. So there you have the room types, which are then mapped to server pools. But for modular setups that I think most are using, where you have one load balancer and multiple front ends, you need to use some kind of meta parameter in the API call to select servers. And that must be supported by the load balancer and of course the front end as well. So solution, right? First part is the load balancer. I have implemented the solution in ScaleLite. And the flow is pretty straightforward. So the idea is to let the admin tag individual servers in ScaleLite. And then in the create call, someone can reference the tag via a certain parameter, the meta server tag parameter. And then ScaleLite will select the least loaded matching tagged server, if any is available. If none is available, it will fall back to the untagged servers. Or if the tag is followed by an exclamation mark, it will actually instead return an error. So you can force the tag and you can say, I want to have an error if the tag is not available. I don't want to fall back. So solution pretty simple, but already there are some implications. Of course, the available tags and their meaning must be communicated to the ones who will pass them in the API call. So that is the front-end admin effectively, which is in some cases the same person as the ScaleLite admin, but in many other cases not. It could also actually be a customer. And currently there's no blacklist or whitelist mechanism, which says like, oh, this tenant can only use this kind of tags, right? Every tenant can use every tag, but that would be solved if we would have actual server pools in ScaleLite, like in B3Scale, for example. What you can do is default or force a certain tag for each tenant via the default override parameters. And if you think about it, you can abuse that to effectively create per-tenant pools. So if you say this tenant is forced to that tag, then he can only use servers that are tagged with the correct tag, right? But then this tenant is restricted to the single tag. You can't use multiple tags anymore for the tenant. So that is not really a solution. It is kind of a workaround in my idea more. But we are already using this workaround to achieve per-tenant pools for the schools. So we have a schools platform and a university platform. Both are for all the state of Runline Plentinate, but we want to separate kind of these instances. And the schools are forced to the schools tag at the moment. And so that way we could get rid of one whole ScaleLite deployment. And also have easier time load balancing between the two instances. Okay, so that is the ScaleLite part. Of course, there is the front end part as well. So it must be supported in the front end, which then sends the parameter and the create call. So I did that in Greenlight, where I called it server types. That is the idea that the user will have, like, right? So in Greenlight, first the admin facing things, what he has to do is he has to configure a map of available tags and their friendly names that the user will see. That is what I call the types in the end. Then optionally, he can restrict certain tags to certain role IDs, so certain user groups in Greenlight. And he will have a sync task. If he changes any of the tag settings or role settings, then he can sanitize the database, right? Delete all invalid tags that are not available anymore or not allowed for the role. That's pretty important. And then user facing is in the room settings. There's a new option, drop-down list, to select the server type. And you will have the types that you are allowed to have according to the role ID. And you could also select this fallback allowed option. I'm thinking about making this like adding a parameter to hide this completely, because I think it could confuse some users. But then again, it could be important for others, so I'm not sure. So per default, the fallback will be enabled. If the tag is not available for whatever reason, it will fall back to an untagged server, but you can also click required to get an error message if the tag is not available. If for some reason you really need to know, okay, this is like a large meeting server, or I need to be on BBB 3.0 because whatever, right? Then you can enforce that error message. But we will see, I will show it later. Okay, so that is like the theory behind it all. I would now go over to a little demo to show the stuff in practice, which I will do via screen share. 1 second. Okay, full display. Okay, you should see my screen now. Let's go to ScaleLite first. So, right, good. I have a little BBB dev ScaleLite here with 3 servers. One is some testing server I played around with. He has already the test2 tag here, right? Then we have a 2.7.9 server without a tag, and we have a 3.0 alpha server without a tag. And now let's give the 3.0 server the tag test. And now here, we have the tag test there, right? So that's the way I like to do it. You can also use the server API, ScaleLite server API, to configure this, or use the YAML file configuration. Both I don't use, but they are supported. I implemented it for these options as well. So that's our setup now in ScaleLite. Now let's go over to Greenlight, where we use the environment file to configure this. So this setup is not, you can't configure it in the UI. It's only via a config file. And this is the section that you have to use. Options are explained. Let's ignore this one for the moment. This here is the map of tags to friendly names, right? We call test and have test3, very easy here. And also you have this map of tags to role IDs. You need to determine the role IDs from the database. That's a little bit unfortunate, but I think it's doable for most people. So for test3, you only have 2 role IDs which are able to use test3. For test without any number, we have specified nothing, so everyone will be able to use test 1. Yeah. Okay. So that's what you have to do in terms of configuration. So the admin is done. Now let's see how it looks for the user. So this is my room, also called test. You see the pattern, right? At the moment, the test room is untagged, so there's the default tag. And now let's go to test. You see the room setting has been updated. And if I start the meeting now, what will we get? I hope no problem, but it is the 300 server. So, okay, who knows ScaleLite? This server would have been selected anyway because it's the first in the list. But let me promise you, it's only because if it was untagged, it would have been selected. If we would have specified no tag, then we would have gotten the other server, right? But we specified the test tag and got the 300 tag here. So that worked. Let's go out again. Right. I could also enforce it here. We saw it is available. I have also this test3 tag here, but as you have seen in the list, we have no test3 in the list. Keep that in mind. But first of all, I went to another browser window where I have another user. This is not the same user. This is my admin user, and this is secondary user. And he has only the test tag available. He has not the test3 because he has not the matching role ID, which I have specified, right? So he can't use test3. But my admin one can use test3 and he can click required. And as you know, the test3 is not available. Okay. I will always fall into this pitfall of not getting the meeting cleared properly. So let's go to a different room. Test3. So now you see the error message, the required server type is unavailable. Please select a different type in the room settings. So I think with that error message, for most people, it should be obvious what to do. Either switch to desired again or choose a tag that is available, right? So I think that is everything I want to show in terms of demo. So let's get back to the presentation. I have one more slide, and that is the conclusion. What are the to-dos and challenges for the future? So first of all, Ahmad is not in the list now. We need to get all the remaining pull requests reviewed and merged. So these have been open for a while now, right? Then we have the feature only supported in Greenlight. It would be nice to have it in other front ends as well. I think I would, for example, contribute to pillars and stuff. And also, if this gets kind of established, I think other load balancers would be interested in implementing this as well. Then one thing I would like to have in ScaleLite still is proper per-tenant server pools, not app-using tags. And then in terms of challenges in the practice is load balancing between different tags. So if, for example, now everyone thinks they want to use the better server instead of the non-better server, then you have to react and start more better servers, right? And less of the untagged ones. So that is, kind of a challenge in practice where you have, and either you have to do it manually or find a good automatic solution. And probably the biggest challenge is communicating the feature to users and getting them to use it actually. That's always difficult. So yeah, any questions? Feel free to ask.
Hi, and yeah, very nice. You were able to do what you wanted to with the tags, and also even though you've used it, you did actually get per tenant pools, which, knowing how other load balancers have implemented it, they did pools but no tagging. You have tagging plus pools, so I think worked out a little bit better. Juan, go ahead and ask a question if you have.
Yeah, I'm just going to use the microphone. or some
Please.
takes longer. Nice work, Jan. Congratulations. Now that you two guys are here, you said you've been using it for in Mainz, in the University of Mainz. Fred, are you working together to implement this in ScaleLite, or is it just like right now coming up? Because it would be very interesting to implement it in ScaleLite or in Greenlight.
It's there in ScaleLite. Like Jan, the feature has gone in, if I'm correct.
Yes, it is part. Also, the main pull requests are merged. There are two little additions that I've submitted later, which are not merged to master, but they are only merged to master. So there's no release containing them. And in terms of Greenlight, it's not reviewed at all.
It's not there yet.
So
but
it is an open pull request. You can have a look at it. You can pull it, apply it to your solution. I promise you it will not destroy everything, but it's not part of the release now yet. No.
And Juan, are you a developer? Like, would you have the skills to take that pull request in for Greenlight and test it?
I'm not a big developer. I've made some tweaks around BigBlueButton for our university, but my problem right now is that we don't have enough staff. So I'm kind of a BigBlueButton admin on the side right now. If I ever got to do anything, it would be like end of the year or maybe even next year. I really cannot promise anything because we have a bunch of other projects on the line right now.
So one option, Juan, is you don't have to do everything yourself. The open source project will deliver. It may not be as quickly, but we will deliver eventually. If you wanted to help us with this, like testing is one way of contribute. You could also reach out to the companies that are involved in the BigBlueButton project, and maybe your university could sponsor some activity. This is very helpful because Jan has done this for Mainz. We're trying to get into the core. We'll get there eventually, but yeah, you have options if that's an option for you.
I will be more than happy to test it once I get the time. I just wanted to know if it was planned, but now that you say it is, well, yeah, I'll try to support as best as I can or we can. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Just
Juan.
a note, the full ScaleLite implementation, including all later little additions, is used in production at our site. So there's no problem with that at all. With the Greenlight one, I would use it in production as well, but I don't have any kind of feedback if it will go into Greenlight as it is or if there will be major changes. So since this is a user-facing change, I don't want to deploy it right now like this. And also there's a database migration included. So I would have to migrate back, and I just want to know if it's okay like it is now before I send it.
Yeah, our goal is to merge it in so that you don't have to worry about like backporting it. It'll be there, and Jan, you've done the heavy lifting, so I want to pull it the rest of the way. All right, thanks, Jan, for the presentation and for the contributions. It solves a very specific problem that affects any large-scale deployment of BigBlueButton. How to use the servers more effectively, and how do you have control over which tenants are going onto which servers. So glad to see it used. Yeah.
But really, the main idea is to give the user choice.
Yes,
so,
and the
so
last
having this tenant mapping is nothing new, but giving the user the choice to select a different server that suits their need is what I wanted to achieve.
Nice. That was both sides of it. All right. Thanks, Jan. I'll stop the recording.